Well, it's almost that time. I am finished doing some last finishing touch on it, and then I will be coming out live with you in just a moment. I just need to make sure that everything is in order before I do that. Yeah, I hope you had a great day. I had a good one. Yeah, it was pretty good all day long. I realized that I'm just a worker. I work like crazy on what I have before me. I think I'll go back. I'm gonna just be with this one. I hope this is not too busy for you. What I have selected for you today, but it is how I was feeling when I came in. So let's do it like this. All right. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. This is the 23rd episode of season one's The Antidote. Proverbs, the antidote. And what is the antidote for? It's for stinking thinking. Yes, it is. And I'm so glad that there is an antidote because, like my mama said, you ain't got no common sense. Well, common sense is not around anymore. So we have to help people get some common sense. And we do that by giving them scripture and all of that. That's how we do it. That's the lion. I'm feeling like a lion today, and I just wanted to make sure I had everything in place. I was so eager to get on that I jumped the gun. I had a couple more things to get done, so maybe while I'm doing this, somebody might see what we're doing and say, I want to be a part of that and jump on board of this here too while I'm working it all out. So let's see. With the music you're hearing tonight is live in Los Angeles at the World Stage. It's one of my favorite things to do. Usually I would be out walking about now, but I said that I'm going to do what I'm doing. I really believe in this project that I'm doing, and I wanted to make sure that everybody gets something good out of it, and that it has pretty good quality. What I'm going to do after this is over, I am going to for sure, um, I'm going to for sure edit all this work out, repackage it so that it can be going to other people. So I don't know if you've been hanging with me, but if you have, it's been a wonderful journey. Yeah, it has. I've been very, very thankful for this journey. And we are back. And one last thing I want to get back. I had to close that door. Unless my dog want to come out here and start barking, and y'all hear all that crazy barking from our, our dog. All right, there we go. We're here. Now let's get to the text because I really want to let you guys go early so that I can go early and hang out with my wife. It's a good night to do that. Let's go. We're at 23. We're at 23. All right. So in this one, I found out that there were a few major sections here. I did a quick run through, and 23 has some sections about gluttony, eating too much, working out with the rich people. What you're supposed to do when you get in the presence of rich people and kings and all that kind of stuff. Um, it has some do not do's, right? And it has some heart and ears to apply to yourself. It has some discipline of a child and a parent. And it has the hoe and the traps that come with a hoe and the traps that come with being a wine bibber, a drunkard. Yes, all these things are involved in here. And my idea now is to kind of just let's get into it. Let's not delay anymore. Verse 1 of the 23rd episode or the 23rd chapter in Proverbs starts with this. When you sit down to eat with a ruler or a king, consider carefully what is set before you, right? Put a knife to your throat if you possess a large appetite, and do not crave the ruler's delicacies, for that food is deceptive. That's saying a whole lot, a whole lot. Let me see what my notes say. Kind of help us get this thing right, so we can understand what's happening here. save this one and then go here. The point of this advice is to be humble and restrained in the presence of a prestigious host. The guest should put a knife to his throat rather than to his food. Curb his appetite, control himself, right? All right, from verses 1 through 8, there are 9 sayings of the wise. There's a bunch of stuff going on here, but I don't want to go in detail with that yet. This section comes in this section of the 30 wise sayings. Like when I listen to Proverbs, I've listened to it over and over and over again, and I heard like this whole section of 30 wise sayings. I had never heard that concept before, and I'm not really ready to teach that here. But let's break it down a little bit. You heard what it said. Oh, put the knife to the throat. Okay, in verse 2, it said, the expression put a knife to your throat is an idiom that means curb your appetite or control yourself. The instruction was from a time when people dealt with all-powerful tyrants. To enter the presence of such a person and indulging one's appetite would take a very high risk. I'm gonna read the last one and then we're gonna talk about. This is the last note I have on there. The impressive feast is not what it appears to be. The king is not doing you a favor, but rather wants something from you, or is observing you. He may be trying to trick you. All right, now let's break it down. Take it down to this screen. Oh, you didn't see what I was reading. All right, that's good. You just see me talking. So now, so I don't have to take it down. All I need to say is this: if you have your book of Proverbs and you're looking at it, 23, it says, when you sit down with the ruler, consider carefully what's before you. Now, my wife taught me this over time from being hanging out with her. She doesn't like to eat a lot when we go to all these feasts and banquets. I don't know why. Maybe she knows about this proverb, but I be eating, so I be grubbing. So if the wise person watching me, especially if they got me some smoked salmon or they got me some nice shrimp, oh my God, I'm eating. I'm gonna eat like a feast. I'm gonna eat like a king. But the Proverbs are saying, when you go to these kind of things, be very, very mindful of what you eat. You know, you might be invited by, the king might be your boss. The king might be the president of the United States. The king might be, some kind of person who has a lot of authority. Usually, when they invite you to their house, they have an ulterior motive. They have something they want to get out of you. Sometimes it's just about observing you. Is he greedy? Now, it would be crazy if I went to the king's house and I act like I ain't never ate before. I got a pile of food about this high on my plate. That would be crazy, right? And that is not what God would have us to be doing. He's not into us doing that. He doesn't even want us to be all about that kind of thing. So we're gonna have to be mindful when we go. It says, put a knife. Verse 2 says, and put a knife to your throat if you possess a large appetite. So, over time, I used to be a big eater, but I had no place to burn that stuff off, so I stopped eating because they kept on getting on my sides and getting on my back, and I was like, I can't be carrying all this weight. So I asked God to allow me to release the weight. I don't want to lose weight because I don't want to find it again. Usually, if things I lost, I want to find it again. I just want to release the weight. So, but if you have this big appetite and you're going to the king's house and you're going to your boss' house, it's like put a knife to your throat rather than put a knife to the food. Don't be putting that just going hard on the steak and the potatoes and all that kind of stuff. Be cool because they're watching you. You're there on purpose and on the pleasure of the boss or whoever it is, and they are definitely got their eyes on you. They might even have a scheme or a trick they want to try on you. So do not crave the ruler's delicacies, for the fruit is deceptive. And remember I read just a little while ago that you don't know what the king got in store for you. They might be just there wanting to see you or just observe you. They want to see how you act when you get around the big people. They don't even know can we take him to different places? Can we promote this person? We don't know. But if you're a greedy gut, that's going to be obvious when they see you with the big old pile of food on your plate. They're like, nah, let's leave him alone. He got a poverty mindset. She got a poverty mindset because they got to eat all that much food, right? They must don't have any food at home. So maybe we're not paying them enough. I don't know. Anyway, there's more. Now this verse 4 is one that I have here. I have it. I said, riches are like a fickle butterfly, hard to catch and hold. Have you ever tried to catch a butterfly? Have you ever just tried to capture one and pick them up and take them with you? Well, I don't try to catch butterflies because it's hard to do that. And then even if you catch a butterfly, you can't hold it real tight because then you just ruin it. It can't. It's fragile, right? And this is saying that riches are like that. When we have riches, when we chase after, let me read it. Sorry. Do not. Let me let you see what I'm seeing. You got to see what I'm seeing right now. So I'm going to change this up a little bit and let you see what I'm seeing in front of my screen. Here's what I'm seeing in front of my screen. Get it in the right position. That was a mistake. Here we go. Now I'm trying to raise this up. So this is what I'm reading here. Do not wear yourself out to become rich. Be wise enough to restrain yourself. Have some control. Because riches are like a fickle butterfly, hard to catch and hold. Right? Be wise enough to restrain yourself. It's basically saying just chill out. Don't try to go crazy just trying to go after riches, right? It's not wise. Wealth is just as elusive as social prestige. We're in a council culture now. So you might be going after all this. You might build up your reputation, and then all of a sudden you speak your mind about something, and your opinion. It's your opinion, but then they want to counsel you for your opinion. Because if your opinion doesn't line up with the approved agenda of the world today, they generally want to counsel you. So it's okay to be in the shadow for a little while. It's okay not to be on the front street, but don't go after social prestige or after riches too hard because you end up being at the control of somebody else, and they might not like you at all anyway. Therefore, people should not wear themselves out trying to get rich. In the ancient world, the symbol of birds flying away signifies fleeting wealth. So where it says here, when you gaze upon your riches, they are gone. For they surely, verse 5, for they surely make wings of themselves and fly off into the sky like an eagle. Wealth that is fleeting away. All right, so that's basically what that is. Now, what I've discovered as I was reading and preparing for you this, it seemed like on the other previous verses that we started doing in chapters, I think it's 20, 21, 22, it was all these little single, proverbs. But now they're starting to group together. I think because they're trying to teach this concept of the 30 wise sayings. And now we're in that section where they're explaining the 30 wise saying. And I think this might be the 6th or 7th or the 30 wise saying. That's a bigger framework that I'm not really working with to the fullest. Now, so this one is going to be verses 6 through 8. Verses 6 through 8. Now, it says, do not eat the food of a stingy person. Do not crave his delicacies. For he is like someone who is calculated. For the stingy person, it's like someone who has calculated the cost in his mind. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. In fact, it says, verse 8, you will vomit up the little bit that you have eaten and will have wasted your pleasant words. All right, so that's a whole segment. Let me take this swig of water and start talking about it a little bit. Yeah. So what it's saying is that in that verse 6 it says, it is better to decline a dinner invitation from a miser because if you accept it, you will only have a miserable experience. So the miser is a stingy person. I don't know if you understand. I didn't look up this word, so let me see what it means. Miser. Miser. What is a miser? A miser is a mean, grasping person, especially who is extremely stingy with money. A miser. Let's hear our sounds. Miser. Miser. All right, so I hope you learned a new word today, miser. So it's better to decline the dinner invitation of a miser, right? Because if you accept it, you will only have a miserable experience. It goes on to say, let me see, I have another one at verse 7. So let's see what that says. This is all in this second segment from 6 to 8. Verse 7 says, while it is not all foreign women, that doesn't go here. I don't know what I'm trying to use this new note system, and sometimes it just get all mixed up. And that verse right there does not go in it. It does not go. So I'm not going to read what it says there for that one. For he is like someone who is calculated. All right, now let me just do it from what I know. All right, so this miser, this stingy person, they counted up all it's going to cost for you to eat their food. Like, ah man, I spent this much on the bread, I spent this much on the wine, I spent this much on it, and they counting all that. And then if you eat more than what they anticipated, oh no, you messing up their thing, and they getting angry, they antsy, they acting crazy. You know, I don't even know why they invited you, but they did. But if you know them to be a miser, if you know them to be that, don't go to dinner with a miser and they said, "Oh, I'll cover the cost," and then you order everything on the menu. That person's gonna hate you forever and ever and ever and ever because you mess up their whole program. They say eat and drink to you, but in their heart is not with you at all. They don't care about you one bit. They're not with you. And it says, in fact, you will vomit up the little bit that they have. Now let me see if I got that right. Here it is. Here's the right one. Here's the note for that. It says, eating and drinking with a selfish miser would be irritating and disgusting. The line is hyperbolic of or relating to, marked by language that is exaggerated or overstates the truth. So this thing about eating and drinking and vomiting, you know, is overstating the truth. Although you may not actually vomit, but you may actually feel like, man, that was a waste. I don't even know why I went there. I got bad vibe from that place. You know, it just was not good. The Holy Spirit will turn your stomach to, you know, to something else. All right, so now let's go back. Now, verse 9 is kind of easy to explain. Let me let you see it again. Verse 9 is a little easy for you to get. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because we all can easily try do this. Let me prove to you what I mean. Look at verse 9. Verse 9 is going to be easy for us. What do you mean, Pastor Omar? I mean this. Do not speak in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of your words. Now we know, we have been studying the Proverbs long enough to know that a foolish person will not listen to the wisdom of the wise. In fact, they will hurt you and give it. They hurt you like, you know, hurt your feelings. I don't care about anything you say, but you know, they don't want to hear about wisdom or wise things. They just want to do them. And they don't want anybody to encroach on them doing them, because they foolish, they ignorant. See, that was easy. We don't have a whole lot to do with that. Now, verse 10, this is another one of those couplets I was talking about. This is one of my favorite jams, y'all. Afro Blue. All right, let's get back into it. Verses 10 through 12. Verses 10 through 12. Do not move an ancient boundary stone or take over the field of the fatherless. Let me let you see what I'm saying. Oh, you see it. Or take over the field of the fatherless. For their protector is strong, and he will plead their case against you. Apply your heart to instruction and your ears to the words of knowledge. All right, so that's a whole section. Now, if I got my notes right, they should read and explain this for us. So this is another warning against taking unfair advantage of the defenseless person. What do you mean? The fatherless is defenseless person, right? The orphan, they have nobody, no parents to take care of them, so they're defenseless. So it said, don't move their ancient boundary stone. Don't keep on trying to change the line and take their property from them. By every year you moving the line a little bit closer and making your bigger and they're smaller because they don't have enough people to watch out for that. Don't take advantage of the poor or the orphans or the needy. Don't you know that God defends the widow, the orphan, the poor, the needy? He is their defender. He is, we're going to find out a little bit later about, he is their kinsman redeemer. God is, right? But I love the idea of a kinsman redeemer. A kinsman redeemer shows up big time in the book of, I think it's Ruth, where the woman, you know, comes back home and she has this young woman with her, Naomi, and the older woman is like, all of her children died, her husband died, and all her children died. So she's coming back to Israel all busted and disgusted, but she brings this young pretty girl with her, and then there was a kinsman redeemer in the family, and he ended up taking the girl on and marrying her and becoming a part of the line of Jesus. That's another story. But that kinsman redeemer, that might help you to understand what I'm about to say here. In my notes, I have this thing about the kinsman redeemer. Now, the kinsman redeemer, this person, it says, for their protector is strong, and he will plead their case. So their goel, right? Their goel, that's what it's called. The goel is strong. It describes someone called the kinsman redeemer. Some Some English versions explicitly cite God, right, or the Lord. The Hebrew term describes as kinsman redeemer. That individual would be a rich or powerful relative who can protect the family. God is a rich, powerful relative, father, and he protects the family. Or it could be a rich person in the family who does this. This person, the kinsman redeemer or God, does this by paying off all the debts of a poor relative. Oh my God, I need a kinsman redeemer. They pay off all the debts of the poor relative, buying up the property of the relative who sells himself into slavery, marrying the widow of the deceased relative to keep the inheritance in the family, or taking vengeance on someone who harms a relative. That vengeance office resulting in delivering, redeeming the relative from bondage. There is no human kinsman redeemer. If there is no human kinsman redeemer, then defenseless has to rely on God to perform his actions. All right. Now, that whole thing, that whole section we read about don't mess with their land, don't move things around, for their protector is strong, and they will plead their case against them. You don't wanna be a person who mistreats. I hope there's nobody on this line who would mistreat these people, but there are people who take advantage of the elderly. They call them up, sneak up. They take advantage of the innocent, the young, children people. I know they did that to my daughter a couple of times. Listen, we have to be really, really mindful in this time, because there are people who will not treat you right. They don't have anything positive or good that they have for you. All they want to do is get and gank you and take your money and use you. That's not going to happen on this watch, because God is our kinsman redeemer. Oh my God. And I hope I have another kinsman redeemer come and do some earthly stuff for me. Thank you, Lord, for being my kinsman redeemer. Father, I thank you for the kinsman redeemer. I'm going to pray. I thank you for the concept of the kinsman redeemer. There are some of us out here, Father, who are stressed to the max, who need you to come through like yesterday. So, Father, we pray that everybody who's listening to this and starts applying the wisdom to their life, that you will eliminate all their debt. There's somebody who needs to go ahead on and apply for that loan. I mean that loan forgiveness that President what's the president name? Biden has put out. It's $10,000 to $20,000. Go get that loan. So we're asking God to help the people out. Bless the people who needs a kinsman redeemer. Deliver them. There's some widow who needs somebody to marry them, to get that widow married. I'm just praying for these people that you might come up, that you might, now that you heard about the kinsman redeemer, you ask God to send you a kinsman redeemer, and he just might do it. He's going to be your kinsman redeemer anyway, but he might help you out. Now this other one, there's another segment that talks about 13 through 14. Do not withhold discipline from a child. Even if you strike him with the rod, he will not die. If you strike him with the rod, you will deliver him from death. So this is basically saying this. The sage, again, advocates discipline. Beating with a rod is not the only form of discipline for children, right? It's not the only form of discipline advocated in the Proverbs. It is simply one form used here as a poetic parallel to discipline. Musar, moral correction. The Hebrew word musar is moral correction. Other forms of discipline, reproof, temporary isolation is one of them. You just don't hang out with them, you're temporary isolation, may be more appropriate in some situations with children of differing ages and temperaments. These verses assure the parent that the child will not only survive the discipline, but he or she will survive because of it, because they were disciplined. I know that I am still alive and on these streets because for my father, I'm still alive and on these streets because my father beat my behind and got that foolishness out of me early. They didn't have nobody talking about we're gonna take you to court if you beat that child, or all the people, because we grew up in the Muslim community, and all the Muslims we pretty much lived around each other, so we weren't going to be telling if somebody beat that child. We're going to make sure, in fact, if my uncle saw me or my brothers or the other Muslim brothers saw me and I was out of order, I was liable to get a beating by them. So I wasn't out there trying to be a bad dude. I was trying to be real cool, and I don't like beatings. Do you? I can't stand beatings. So there's that kind of beating there, but the whole idea is that there's got to be a need for correction, right? So if you strike him with the rod, the child who needs correction, whatever rod you're going to be using, it will deliver them from death. You know, a lot of people have been saved from jail because one of the things my father said, I ain't going to visit you. If you go to jail, you on your own. I'm never going to come and visit you. And I didn't want to test him out because most of everything my father said, he meant what he said. So I didn't want to be not visited by my parents. I wanted to be loved by them. Okay, this next one is another one of these couplets. It's 15 through 16. It reads like this. My child, if your heart is wise, then my heart will also be glad. My son, my soul will rejoice. Your lips speak what is right. Mm-hmm. That's 15 to 16. So I want to stop there. And I want to tell you about a conversation that I had with my son today. I realized, I don't know about you, but I realized I have 4 children. And these 4 children have taken a particular aspect of me and their mother and have just expanded it. You know, when I was younger, I was really into marijuana. I discovered later on, because I think I started smoking marijuana when I was around 13, 14, 15, somewhere around that age. I was in public school, but after I got out of the Muslim school, I was in public school, and I just felt like I don't know where I got the idea from. To tell you the truth, I just I heard about this thing called well, I think back in the day they called it reefer, but this thing called marijuana, and I just had it in my mind. I need to smoke it. I need to get some of it, and I started trying to buy it and got burned a few times. But then I smoked it. But then I found out that for me, now I'm not talking about anybody else, but for me, I I found out later in life what I was really doing was self-medicating because I have a chemical imbalance that causes me to be very, very depressed, almost debilitatingly depressed if I do not have that chemical imbalance. Now I think they have me on something like 450 milligrams of Wellbutrin just to keep me balanced, just to keep me, I remember the first time I took that thing and that pill that the doctor gave me, and I was like, has the sun always been this bright? I didn't know I was chemically depressed. And then I noticed that when my firstborn got about the same age that I was, he started experimenting with it, and I was like, oh man, he might have the same thing I have, right? But now that guy is in the legal cannabis industry, and he was sitting down with the presidents of major producers of legal cannabis. And I was like, that's one of the things that I had as a youngster. I was very interested in it. I studied the plant. I studied what it is, so I knew what I was dealing with, right? So I did. And he has studied it himself. Now he's in that industry doing great things. I have other sons. I have one son. I'm into fashion and design. I actually was a model when I was in high school. Now I have one son who's a fashion design model. He's doing fashion design. He's going to school for it, LA Trade Tech, right? He's studying it for himself. Okay, that's good. I have another part of me that's super disciplined. My wife said I'm the most disciplined person she knows. I was always staying fit, so always exercising, always doing what I had to do, eating well. And now one of my sons is doing that in the Air Force, right? And then my daughter, I've been an academic all my life, super, super in the books. Oh, not all my life. I've almost told a lie. When I was 13 or 14 or 15, I hadn't even read a full book yet. Not a whole book, but somewhere around 16, 17, 18, I read a couple of books, and man, it just turned my world around. And then I've been a student ever since then. So I have the bachelor's of art, right, in international studies in African and African American history, and the master's of theology in pastoral counseling. And I'm also in a PhD program for PhD in religion, right? So I'm in the PhD program for religion. And so I'm a student. And my daughter is the student. She's now at first year student at Loyola Marymount, and she didn't get in there because she had any weak grades. She had the grades to get in there because she was like her father. So when they start talking about these things about the children, right? Our children become reflective of us. So we definitely want to make sure that the child has wise advice. And so then it says, my child, if your heart is wise, then my heart will be glad, and my soul will rejoice. Well, what I just told you, and when you speak, and your lips will speak what is right. What I just told you is that my heart is glad, and my children's speech is right, because they followed the principles that I gave them. I told you I read principles. I didn't sit down and read to them principles, Proverbs every day. I taught them principles as we walked. I was always doing these teachable things. So if you're a parent out there listening to me, I want you to really take, especially if you have young children, I want you to really take a real interest in this book, because this book was designed to teach wisdom when this culture and this world does not teach wisdom anymore. So I really want you to get that and get it with all your might and all your strength. Get this book, get my teachers. You're here, a modern translation of it. That's what I'm providing for you now. Because this is ancient wisdom. This wisdom is thousands of years old. It's not just yesterday's wisdom, but it sounds like today, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. All right, now we're going to move on from there. We are at, yes, I'm going to keep it moving. I always promise that I will be less than 60 minutes. That's what I've been doing the last few times, and I pretty thank God I've been hitting it and doing better. Hopefully I'll get off earlier and I can just listen to some jazz and listen to this Afro blues. Listen. Yeah, live jazz at the world stage. You can get them on Facebook. Type in the world stage and you can hear them every Friday night at 8 o'clock. Let me get back to my work. Told you that's one of my favorite jams. Okay, do not let your heart be envious. Now, I named this one, don't waste your time being envious of a fool, right? Don't waste your time. So it says, do not let your heart envy sinners, but rather be zealous for fearing the Lord at all times. Remember, I taught you that the fear of the Lord is not to be scared of the Lord, but to love what the Lord loves and to hate what the Lord hates, right? To reverence the Lord, to keep God in your thinking all day long, everywhere you go. That was another thing my son told me. He said, "Daddy," I said, are you praying about this? You got all these things happening. Are you praying? He said, "Daddy, I pray every day, and all my friends know I talk about God every day, and I do too." So I'm like, this is my firstborn. And remember, I told you, I don't know if I told you this, but remember, I told you, I named our firstborn child Yah son Emmanuel Muhammad. Yah means the I am that is. When you say hallelujah, that's the Yah. I took that's the Yah, the I am that is, right? Son, Yahweh's son, God with us. That's what I named him. So I put him, and then Muhammad means one who lives a life that is worthy of praise, or praiseworthy, or the comforter, or the helper. So I put a thick name on him. Before he was even born, he had the name. When he came into the world, and at first he was kind of like rejecting. He really wasn't trying to feel like we went to church and all that kind of stuff. But after a while, he was like, "Man, I'm done with that. I don't want to do it," because he saw the hypocrisy of church. Me being a pastor, his mom being a mama, and seeing a lot of the backstabbing, sometimes hearing our conversations, he was like, "Man, I can't get with this church. It is just hypocrisy." And sometimes it is. Thank God I pastored, and I was a real deal pastor. But now the boy is a pastor to his community, his young in his community. Am I bragging about my children? Yeah, I am. Because the proverb says, what did it say up here? The proverb says, what did it say? My child, if your heart is wise, then my heart also will be glad, and my soul will rejoice. Well, what I'm doing is I'm rejoicing, because my children's hearts are wise. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. And their soul makes me rejoice. Me and my wife are happy with our children. We're so thankful. We're blessed, and we know we're blessed. All of them graduated from high school. All of them are on their way to do different things, right? My God. And they are the second generation of them. So look at this. I am the firstborn son of. I'm the firstborn child of 7 children. My mother and father had 7 children. I was born in New Jersey, so we grew up in Newark, and then we moved to Baltimore. But all of my mother and father's children have graduated from high school. Several of my mother and father's children have graduated from college. I'm the first one to graduate and the first one to get the master's, right? I'm gonna try to be the first one to get this PhD too, so I can set the bar real my brother got a master's degree, my sister got a master's degree, other one got undergraduate degree, and we just were achieved. So our parents taught us wisdom, and we're the second generation. I can't even imagine what my children are gonna be doing. I can't imagine. But I can imagine, and I pray for their spouses and everything. I don't know why I'm talking about all this right now. I think because that's scripture, but it is what it is. But I got to keep going because I said I want to hurry up and get out of here and let you go early. So do not waste time with these people. So 17, do not let your heart envy sinners, right? But Rather be zealous, fearing God at all times. And then 18, for surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. If you're wise and you're not fooling around with these sinners and not being envious of them, you're going to go on. Now, envy. What is the word envy? That's not a word we use every day. Envy means painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with the desire to possess the same advantage. Oh man! All right, let me think. What? If I were an envious person, what would I be envious of? All right, I'm gonna do it like this because I'm always in the preacher world. Bishop Noel Jones is a preaching preacher. He's a preacher of preachers, right? That dude can preach. And who else is like that? What is his friend Thomas? Uh, TD Jakes? Them some preaching people. And if I was envious, I would want their gift and I would want to possess what they have. But I'm not envious. They got their lane and they minister to their people. I got my lane and I minister to my people. They minister to thousands right now. I'm ministering to hundreds right now. One day it may be thousands. If it's not thousands, I'm still not going to be hating because I did my assignment as what the assignment that God's given me. I hope that you don't be envious. Don't look at somebody's skill and ability and then be envious of it, hating on them and trying to desire it because it's painful. It's painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with the desire to possess the same advantage. I said, don't waste time being envious, especially of a fool. Goes on to say, the long view, even beyond death, is essential to avoiding envy, right? Of the wicked. The long view. What's the long view is that there is a future and a plan that God has for us, and we don't want to be worried about the immediate. We want to think about God got a plan all the way down the line. My grandfather and my grandfather's father, they were praying. The slaves were praying for this day that I'll be able to use technology and go to school and do all that kind of stuff and have advantages that any other slave holder had. I have a lot of those advantages already that my parents wish that they had, but they prayed and because they believed in the future. And I believe that my children, like I said, I can't even imagine the future they have. It's gonna be marvelous. So the long view, even beyond death, is essential to avoiding envy of the wicked, who frequently prosper in this life. We should always be zealous for the fear of the Lord. Have a zeal for that. Looking up and looking ahead can help us to avoid envy and envying sinners. So if we take the long view, okay, let's work this out. If we take the long view of a foolish person who has gifts and talents that you might envy and want, but because they didn't have that foolishness beat out of their heart, so to speak, they just foolish, right? The end of the end of the road might be they might end up on Skid Row. They might be ended up smoking crack. They might be ended up dying a horrible death, or end up in prison because they had so much money, but they didn't have the character to go with the money, right? And so they ruined their life. My God, I can think of some people. And I don't want to call any names because it's just bothering me to see how some people's life got so ruined. They were smart, they're intelligent, they got doctor's degree and everything, but when they were younger, they had foolishness in their heart, putting roofies in people's drink, having uncoordinated or agreed to sex, and then next thing you know, the brother is in prison. All his work it got a smudge on it because he was foolish. Take the long road. I plan on being here for a while, about 107 or 10. Only if my life is good, and only if God still has a purpose for me at that time. If not, I'm going to get out of here as soon as my purpose is finished. All right, we dealt with that. Let's go on to 19. 19. It says, listen, my child, and be wise, and guide your heart on the right way. Don't spend time among drunkards, among those who eat too much meat, because drunkards and gluttons become impoverished, right? And drowsy. Excuse me. Yeah, it's 19 to 21, so I'm going to read all of it. Listen, my child, and be wise, and guide your heart on the right way. Do not spend time among drunkards, winos, potheads, crackheads. Do not spend time among drunkards, among those who eat too much, gluttons, gluttons, pigs, they eat too much, they too greedy, eat too much meat, because drunkards and gluttons become impoverished, and drowsiness clothes them with rags. This is a whole segment, and basically it's talking about if you're hanging around with greedy, gluttonous people, gluttonous for sex, gluttonous for drugs, gluttonous for pleasure, drunkard for wine, drunkard for crack, drunkard for cocaine, whatever it is, drunkard for whatever it is, cause you to be intoxicated far and beyond. Said you don't want to really fool with those people because in the end they end up being broke, busted, and disgusting. I've seen a lot of people who were who were you know in the hot in the spotlight, actors and stuff like that. And in the end, when you look at their lives in the end, they turn out to be drunkards. They're all messed up. They all tore up because they didn't have the discipline to put a knife to their throat when they were around, things. They just didn't. No one taught them the way how to be wise and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up in ruin. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. That's why I'm trying to do all this teaching on this proverb so that you can not end up like that. That would be horrible for you. And for me, if I knew you ended up that way. Now we're at verse 21. You already read that one. The drunkenness and drowsiness that comes from it brings to ruin. All right, we already got that. You know, you doing amphetamines and you can't even get up the next day. You sleep 3 or 4 days. You lost your job because you were sleeping away because you were getting high and didn't know what all kinds of things happen. I mean, I've been around. I've seen it, and I have had that crash from the amphetamine crash. It ain't nothing nice. You could be up 2 or 3 days, but when you have that crash, you gone. And then when you get up, if you get up 2 or 3 days, a day or two later, it's like, what happened to me? That's why I stopped doing that. I was like, I ain't doing this anymore. I did it when I was in college at Howard University, but I stopped doing that a long time ago. All right, because my father wanted me to be wise, and I did become wise. Verse 22. Listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Right? That's the easy one. That's easy. Acquire truth. Yes. Acquire truth and do not sell it. Wisdom and discipline and understanding. Now, what is that saying right there? First of all, it's saying you need to listen to your parents. Because now here's why. Because your parents have had years of experience here on the earth, unless you're like some people. Some people had children when they were 13 or 14. They don't have much wisdom. And that whole thing is messed up. But for me, I had at least 30 years before my children were born of experience. So when I'm talking to my children about life, I'm talking to them for real. And I was always very blunt with my children. I would tell them if I blew it, I blew it, because I want them to build off of my shoulders. I don't want them to have to go through the hard knock school. I went through enough of the hard knock school that I could tell them, and my children were wise enough to listen. So a lot of stuff I told them to don't do, they didn't do it. Don't go to them parties to be drinking. No, don't do it. You have a water bottle, and you keep your water bottle. I don't know if you can see my water bottle. You have a water bottle, and you keep that water bottle with you. If you put that water bottle down, don't go back to it. You keep your water bottle so that you are the highest person in the club because you're drinking water, and everybody else is getting inebriated, and they going down, and you going up. That's a good trick. I've used it many times, and it works. And wait a minute, let me not say that I don't drink, because that would be a lie too. I do drink. Every now and then I like to drink. I love mimosas. Ooh, you can't give me one. I love mimosas. I love the Harvey's Bristol Cream. So but I very rarely do it. And I do it only in the company of my family and loved ones. Because I don't want to be out there messed up. I hadn't got drunk since I was 19 years old. I don't like getting drunk, period. So that's just another thing. So listen to your parents. Here's what it says. Heeding wise parental instruction is hard for some children, but it is necessary for them to become wise. By listening and obeying to his or her parents, the child learns and listens to and obey God. Submission to parental authority makes submission to divine authority easier. Well, if you learn how to obey your parents, you can easily learn how to obey God. This verse was so interesting. It said this, but understanding this, that in the last days difficult times will come, for people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, the selfie generation, lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, bragging, arrogant, blasphemous, saying they have no respect for religion.
It's 9 o'clock.
Disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, inconceivable, irreconcilable, slanderers, and without self-control, savage, opposed to what is good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, loving pleasure rather than the love of God. Now that was written at least, I'm gonna say at least, I think it's about 2,000 years ago, but it's still relevant for today, because humans are still have the basic elements of humanity is the same, right? Honor parents here means listening, paying attention to their instruction, and it does not necessarily mean obeying their instruction, but it's listening and honoring their instruction. Parents might not like what I just said, but it's true. Now we're going to 24. The father of a righteous person will rejoice greatly. Whoever fathers a wise child will have joy in them. I just told you a lot about that. May your father and your mother have joy. May she who bore you rejoice. Give me your heart, my son, and let your eyes observe my ways. Okay, now I'm gonna stop right there because that's another section. So from this 24 down to 26, it's talking about what I've been talking about the whole time. About, if you honor your mother and father, and you do the things that they suggested that you do. One thing I didn't do that I wish I would have did. My mother told me, get some insurance on me and keep it. Get life insurance, whole life insurance on me and keep it. I wish I had done that. My mother and father knew they were going to die. And if I had done that, I would not be in the financial situation I am now. I would be way far advanced. So take a word to the wise is sufficient. I told my son and my children, take a life insurance policy out on me and your mother. We are going to die someday. And keep it paid up. Get one that's not going to break you. Keep it paid up. Because when we make our exit, you're gonna come into great wealth. I hope y'all listening to me. Take this advice. One day I'm gonna share with you. My son asked me, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? One day I'll share you what I told him. But that's one of the things I told him. Take out some life insurance on us. Now we have verse 26. This is a whole nother section that I want to talk about. Now listen to 26. It's very interesting. It says this. Give me your heart, my son, and let your eyes observe my ways. For a prostitute, what'd you say? I said a hoe. What'd you say? I said a thought. Oh, a prostitute is like a deep pit. A harlot is like a narrow well. Indeed, she lies in wait like a robber, and increases the unfaithful among men. All right, now let me just break that down a little bit more. What is it talking about? It says, son, listen to me. There are people out there who are hoes and they're prostitutes. Now, in this one, it doesn't say it's actually speaking to the son, because it seems like the son is more susceptible to a prostitute or a whore. And what is a prostitute and a whore? A prostitute and a whore is someone who sells sexual favors for money. And while I'm here, I have to say this. I'm asking God to help me to say it. Where I work downtown in Skid Row, I have a front row seat to all the activities that's going on in Skid Row. And I did not know. It took me a couple of months to figure it out. But now I know. Prostitution is always happening right in that neighborhood. I see these sisters walking back and forth. I thought they were on crack highs, but I realize now that, and then I see the guys come and pick them up. They come in nice cars. They come pick them up, jump in, and I guess then they come back a little bit, they drop them off. It is so crazy out there. And so now I've been kind of hard on the prostitute or the hoe, and I'm hard because I don't want my son or my daughter to get caught up with a gigolo, or my son to get caught up with a prostitute or a hoe, right? I'm gonna say this, and I'm not saying it out of pride. I have never paid for a piece of I have never paid for sex with a woman, not ever. And that's partly because I saw my father. He would help the people, but he wouldn't be a part of that. And I read Proverbs. I learned these Proverbs. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And I'm thankful. But there are some men out there who are doing it, and some men who are close to doing it. When they take that big old, their hard-earned paycheck, turn it into dollars, and they swiping people's behinds with it like a credit card and throwing money up in the air. All those activities of a foolish person, right? Now, I'm not saying Pastor Omar has never been to a strip club. I have been to a strip club. And I was like appalled. I was like, not, I should have been upset with the women up there shaking their bodies. But I guess I'm a man of men, right? So I found that intriguing. But I did not find, what I found stupid was that you were throwing your money and giving your money away. No. And now they got these things for women to do the same thing. So these are traps, these are pits. That's why the scripture said it's like a narrow pit. Because once you fall down into that kind of lifestyle, that kind of way, it's hard for you to get back out of there. And it says that it multiplies the unfaithful people, right? Yeah, there are so many people who are unfaithful because they could just buy a piece and keep it moving, but they're unfaithful to their wife. And some of them took chlamydia back to them. Some people dipped their stick in something, or had somebody have oral sex on them and brought some stuff to them that now they got chlamydia and some other kind of stuff that they ain't never heard of, and they dealing with that. And now they brought that into their marriage, the sanctity of their marriage bed. Father, I pray for every husband out there who is tempted to do this. I pray that you would deliver them. I pray for every wife that's out there tempted. I pray that and those who got caught up, Father, I pray that you would deliver them. I pray that they would hear this thing, get convicted of the Holy Spirit, and that you would deliver them from those frivolous, wasteful ways. They wonder why they ain't got no money. And then some of them got a whole bunch of money, and they just indulge into the end, and it's just driving them insane. So I pray for deliverance and healing, Father. Be their kinsman redeemer, Father, and set the captives free. Only you can do that. Now, what I'm doing right now is trying to teach people so they don't get caught up with that. Father, help us today. And I hope my candor and my truthfulness about this. See, this is what I was teaching with my children. I would tell them, I hope my candor and my truthfulness about this is going to deliver and help somebody. This is not. I can't preach this on the pulpit. I cannot do it. That's why sometimes in the earlier part, I call myself Uncle Omar. I didn't call myself Pastor Omar. I call myself Uncle Omar because I want to teach like I need to teach to set some captives free in the name of Jesus. Because when you get caught up like that, it's like a robber. It steals your wealth. It steals your happiness. It steals your joy. It steals your marriage. It builds up. It makes more unfaithful people, more unfaithful men around, right? And so now this other one right here. This is where I'm going to end with this. Thank you. I'm right near the end. Thank you. I'm right on target. In the King James, I'm going to read it in the King James Version. When I first read this, y'all, I was tripping out. And I loved it ever since then. I love this ever since then. And maybe that's part of the reason why I don't indulge with alcohol too much. Because I saw this. Is this a King James Version? Make sure it says King James. Yeah, King James. Now I think we're on verse 29, is that? This one, they use the word whore. And this one, instead of adulteress or prostitute. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions, fights? Who has babbling? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of the eyes? They that tarry long at the wine. They that go to seek mixed wine. Look not upon the wine when it is red, when it gives color in the cup, when it moves itself aright. At the last bit, it's like a serpent. The wine is like a serpent, and stingeth like an adder. Thine eyes shall behold a strange woman, and the heart and thine heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of the mast. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I, when shall I awake, and I will seek it again? Dang. Okay. Now that's how I read in the King James version, right? And I used to love that. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has, and what I would envision is the wino. Now I don't know if y'all had a wino in your neighborhood, but we had winos in my neighborhood. People who drank, they drink and their skin was red. They drink until they out there babbling, talking crazy, getting fight, getting beat up, getting rolled by people. They were all their money. They got rolled because they didn't drink all their money, had it wide in their pocket. Somebody just rolled them over, took the money, and kept it rolling, right? Because when you are in a place where you are drinking too much and it's over the top, it starts to ruin your life, right? So let me read it in another version. That was the King James version. I just did that out of nostalgia because I like the way it says. Who has woe? Who has sorrows? Who has wounds without cause? Now this is how it says in this version I'm reading now is the New English translation. It reads like this: Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions, fights? Who has complaints, babbling, talking all the kind of stuff? Who has wounds without cause? They don't even know. They wake up and I don't even know where these came from. Wounds without cause, right? Who has dullness, redness of the eyes? Who has dullness of the eyes? Those who linger over wine. They just drink all day, lingering. They're not just drinking and walking away, drinking only at night. They're lingering over wine. They drinking all the time. I see that all the time. I see that all the time downtown. One thing I see, a lot of the people, the homeless people, are carrying bottles and bottles of liquor. I see them, they start drinking. Look, I get to work at 8 a.m. They already have their clear, hard liquor wine bottles out there drinking at 8 a.m. in the morning, and they drink all day long, some of them. And they look terrible. Their skin is all dried up. The skin is looking crazy. They all frilled. It's crazy. It's like, who has wounds without cause? Who has dullness or redness of the eye? Their eyes are always red. And some of them dark. They don't even have brightness white anymore. Those who linger over the wine. Those who go looking for mixed wine. Do not look on wine when it is red and when it sparkles in the cup. That was a strange saying. I'm gonna read some over here because I didn't understand that for a long time. I was afraid to look at the red wine because I didn't know what it meant. All right, but hopefully I have an explanation for you in a minute. When it goes down smoothly, right? Afterward, it bites like a snake and stings like a viper. There's some of that stuff I call gut rot alcohol. It's just nasty. You drink it down and it just turns your stomach when you get finished. I used to drink that kind of stuff, naughty head and all that other kind of stuff when I was young. Very, very, very young. As an adult, I don't fool with that hard liquor. I don't do it. I barely drink mixed drinks. I just discovered one of my wife's got a favorite drink. She calls it Long Island tea, something like that. New York Long Island tea, whatever it is. That's a delicious drink. And I'm very, very careful about doing that because that drink will get you messed up real quick. It tastes real good, and if you're drinking just because the taste, like you drinking good juice or something like that, you will be messed up. And I can feel it, so I got away from it. All right. Okay, wait a minute. I need to say that I am not advocating drinking. And I know a lot of Christian communities, they are what they call teetotalers. They don't drink any alcohol. And bless their blessed soul. I thank God for them. If they were able to do that, in fact, my father, being a Muslim minister, an imam, he was a teetotaler. But the story behind why he was a teetotaler was very important. My grandfather died early from alcoholic complications. The same for my grandmother, according to the story. I never even met my grandmother, and I don't remember my grandfather. I don't remember them. But whatever happened when my father became a Muslim, he put all that down and never came back to it ever again. So so my father broke the alcohol addiction in our family because he was a teetotaler. When his children came out, we didn't have that addiction. We didn't have that propensity to drink wine and alcohol. No, we didn't. So when we got older and really you know, sometimes I'm like, I feel bad because I drink a little bit of alcohol. Because I think about how my father was such a teetotaler. But I taught my children moderation. I taught them moderation. So I know that they drink every now and then. But the funny thing about what happens with them, most of the time when they get drink, they throw up. And I'm happy. They got a rejection inside their body that causes them to throw up. And so my children be like, I don't like to drink. I don't like throwing up. All right, good. Thank God. That's Granddaddy Yaya helping you out. All right. What else can I say? Well, I'm out of here. Well, I don't think I read this to you, so I need to read this to you. I need to read you. So I'm gonna back up a little bit, and then I'll go forward. And this is backing up to because I was teaching about the whore and the prostitute, but I didn't teach you this part. It says, verse 26. Other exhortations to apply what follows preface this saying. It is especially important. Our culture glamorizes sexual promiscuity, but these verses reveal its true consequences: entrapment, constraint, painful loss, and treachery. Two types of harlots are viewed here: the unmarried harlot, all right, or the prostitute, and the married harlot, or the adulterous woman, or the wayward wife. I just wanted to make sure I threw that in there because that's some technical stuff. Take your time, listen to it again, or maybe watch this and look how I put the screen up here long enough so you can read it and see what it's saying. But I had to go back on that. And this last part is this here. I'm not going to read that. I'm going to keep on going. You can read that on your own later on. Okay. Now, this classic description of drunkenness, who has sorrow, who has woes, who has scars without cause. This classic description of drunkenness ironically illustrates the folly of that vice. The father urges the son to remember how too much drinking will end. Let me slow down more. The father urges his son to remember how too much drinking will end, so its present enjoyment will not captivate him. All right? And I read the King James Version already, and I'm saying this. While alcoholism is a medical problem, it is also a moral problem because it involves choices and brings danger to other people. You have to remember that it's got choices. The line describes how one who is intoxicated does not feel the pain, even though beaten by others, he does not even remember it. Now, that was some hard teaching on this day. Hard teaching. But it's real. The prostitute, the hoe, the drunkard, the good sons, the wise sons, all that. So, we're finished. And I think I came in just under the time. Let me see if I can find out where that time is. Oh, there it is. I'm 4 minutes over. Do me a favor. Keep your hands clean and your heart pure. You cannot go wrong with that. This is Pastor Omar, Preacher Omar, Uncle Omar. And it's time for me to say goodbye. I am out.